It's the most talked about topic in New York sports. Should the Rangers blow it all up this offseason? Alex Day, I'm Brandon London. I need you to kick this thing off, man. Should the Rangers blow it all up this offseason? Go.
This has been the most disappointing Rangers season of the past 30 years. And I say this out of love. But this team won the President's Trophy last year. This team had cup aspirations this year. And this team has had no spine since they lost to Florida at the end of last year. The last time this team came back from a multi-goal deficit was when Chris Kreider scored a hat trick in the playoffs last year. They didn't once, in any game this year, come back from a multi-goal deficit. They didn't win 3 consecutive games since mid-November. And speaking of mid-November, how they quit between Thanksgiving and Christmas set the tone for this year. And I think if you're general manager Chris Drury, that taste in Rangers fans' mouth, that's going to stick with you through the offseason, and I'm expecting some major changes.
I don't think you should blow it up. With the definition of blowing up parts of something and not the entire thing, I just checked it, is fragmenting. I think they should fragment because like you said, yes, they won the President's Trophy last year, and they're on the brink of being eliminated from the playoffs. They would be the 4th team in NHL history to win the President's Trophy, then not make the playoffs the following season. Actually, they'd be the 2nd time in Rangers history that a team would do that. But at the end of the day, you still have players on this roster from that President's Trophy team. So it could be a thing where the expectations were high going into this season, yes. Have they quit when the hashtag is no quit in NY? Yes, I put a lot on the players, but at the end of the day, if you could blow up a couple pieces, regroup, re-strategize, and figure out what your identity is going to be next season, I think the Rangers will be okay. So fragment it, but don't blow it all up.
I completely agree. I think it's going to be a retooling, similar to what Chris Drury tried to do last summer. He's going to continue to do that this summer.
Okay.
I don't know if any player, maybe other than Igor, should feel 100% safe.
All right.
I'm expecting some big changes. And you know what? There's a stench around this team. Ooh. And it's hard to point the finger. You could say Chris Drury was a little bit clunky in his decision-making with how he put out his memos saying everyone's available. Even if that was somewhat the right decision, that's a bad way of going about it, especially from a general manager who used to be a player. Yeah. It's on the players for quitting. That stench doesn't just go away in one offseason. And it's on the coach, Peter Laviolette, for not keeping the group together. So I'm expecting Peter Laviolette to not be here next year. I'm expecting, sadly, Chris Kreider to not be here next year, which hurts to say because every Ranger fan loves Chris Kreider. Yeah. His number's going to be in the rafters one day. This season is, I think, the nail in the coffin for him as a Ranger. And I'm expecting some other veterans to be on the hot seat. And I wouldn't be afraid if we see some other big names getting thrown around in trade discussions this offseason.
Yeah, Chris Drury is going to have to make a bunch of tough decisions this offseason. And I think even tougher than the decision he made with the whole Jacob Trouba thing, sending him to Anaheim. I think Chris Kreider is going to play his last game as a Ranger when the regular season hits because at the end of the day, you've got a guy making what he makes for AAV. It's not there. You have to make room for the younger players like a Gabe Perreault, and you see Laviolette kind of wasting his ELC right now with having him just sitting there on the bench. But I think Chris Kreider and definitely Peter Laviolette will not be Rangers next season.
I'm glad you mentioned Gabe Perreault. A big criticism of the Rangers over the last couple of years is how they haven't been able to develop their young players. You go back to Capo Caco, even Lafreniere taking the steps that we hope he would take. We just gave Lafreniere a 7-year deal, didn't have a good year. Yep. You look at some of the other young players that they've had throughout the years, Vitaly Kravtsov, some other guys. Yep. To bring up Gabe Perreault, burn 1 year of his entry-level contract for 4 games when you're about to miss the playoffs, and then you scratch him is stupid. It's nonsensical. It's bad business. Not just bad hockey, it's bad business. And it shows that the Rangers haven't changed when developing young players. They've had plenty of opportunities to help this core with young players that they've gotten partially through the lottery, partially through developing guys in the minors. I'm looking for Brandon Othman to take a step. I'm looking for Gabe Perreault to take a step next year. I'm looking for Rempe to get more ice time next year. Keandre Miller hasn't developed the way we thought. Braden Schneider hasn't developed the way we thought. You look up and down the lineup, you could point the finger to a lot of young players who haven't taken that next step, and that largely falls on the organization.
And because of that, that's why I say Peter Laviolette is gone. I mean, when you you went to the game where they lost 8-5 to the Flyers, you're hearing boos. You're seeing an empty stadium. If we can compare it to any New York sports team, it's almost like the Giants. If you could fly a plane and blow up the dumpster fire, if you could fly a plane in Madison Square Garden, I think people would have done that. And when you lose the locker room, that's one thing. I'll get on the players in a little bit. I'm going to jump down their throats as a former player because you never quit, especially when the hashtag is no quitting.
This team quit before 2025 even started, before the new year. This team quit after Thanksgiving.
And that's because they do not buy in to whatever Laviolette is selling nowadays. And that's how you have it when you have a team. That's what happens when a team who won the President's Trophy the year before looks absolutely terrible and throws the towel in, and that's because they don't believe in their head coach.
I think this offseason it's going to be a big question about two guys.
Okay.
Number one, Mika Zibanejad. It's hard to say because they just gave him a big extension. He's here for a long time. He's getting paid a lot of money. Is Mika still going to be here for a long time?
Absolutely.
I hope so, but what version of Mika? Because Mika hasn't been the Mika that we know for a better part of 2 to 3 years now. It's just fact, and I love Mika.
Okay.
Artemi Panarin, he's got one more year on his contract. This guy getting paid $13.5 million. Panarin has had an amazing Rangers tenure, but he's also had a pretty bad Rangers tenure in the playoffs. And when you look at how Chris Drury clearly wants to structure this team when going and making moves like JT Miller, Will Borgen, wants them to be tough to play against, have some sandpaper in their game. Artemi Panarin is not a playoff type of player. He gets you into the playoffs, other than this year. At $13.5 million, will they look to move on from him? So these are big questions for the offseason. I think Mika is really going to be the biggest question because I think while we know that a big name like Chris Kreider's gone, other guys might be safe like JT Miller, Alexis Lafreniere, some guys like Mika Zibanejad who have big contracts. It'll be interesting to see if Chris Drury gives him the Jacob Trouba treatment and says, yeah, I know you have a no-trade clause. You might need to waive that or else you're not going to be welcome here.
All right, so since we've pretty much agreed that they should fragment it more.
They can't hit the button.
Don't hit the red
button.
Blow it all up just yet.
No.
So tighten this up for us because we're going to pull this as a social clip.
Yeah.
Who goes, who stays? Go.
All right. Here's who's safe for the Rangers next year.
Go.
Alexis Lafreniere, Igor Shesterkin, Adam Fox, Will Cooley, Brandon Othman, any young guys.
Okay.
Any young guys. Here are the guys who I don't think will be here next year. Chris Kreider, Keandre Miller. I almost want you to go up and down the lineup right now. It's tough to say about Mika. I think Mika, there's a 50-50 chance on Mika.
Okay. What about Panarin?
I think there's a 60-40 chance Panarin is still here, but I don't think he's completely as safe as we think he is. Because
Vincent Trocheck.
Safe.
JT Miller.
Safe.
Jonathan Quick.
Safe.
All right.
Safe. I think this is clearly going to shift to being a more JT Miller-focused team. When they acquired JT Miller, I thought, okay, it's clear what Drury wants. Okay. He wants players who are tough to play against, guys who have a little sandpaper in their game. Right. Not a lot of other forwards have that. Trocheck has that. How many other guys have that? Panarin doesn't fall in that category. Mika doesn't fall in that category. Frankly, Alexis Lafreniere doesn't fall in that category, but he's young, skilled, and they just paid him. So, yeah, I don't know if anyone should sleep well this offseason.
All right, so out with the old, in with the new, and they should change up the slogan and the hashtag next year for sure because this team did quit in New York.
It can't be no quit in New York for as long as this core is here because this team quit this year. This team, if you told me a team with Igor Shesterkin, Adam Fox, Mika Zibanejad, Artemi Panarin, Alexis Lafreniere, and all the talent that this Rangers team has, and they missed the playoffs, shame on them.
Yeah. Two things in New York, expectations and effort. You got to live up to at least one of them. And they didn't for both, the expectations nor the effort.
And they set that bar for themselves because they are that good. This team went on a deep run last year for a reason.